Hi guys, back with another new Mega Drive game. We've been spoilt for new Mega Drive games recently, some really good ones, and I've been waiting for this one really eagerly since the Kickstarter campaign, and that's Demons of Asteborg, made by Neofid. And yeah, they very kindly sent over this press pack which has a copy of the game in and some other goodies. So first of all, we're going to have a look at what's in here. Thanks so much to them for sending it over, and then we're going to play the game. And yeah, I did back this on Kickstarter a while back. I did a video last June of the demo and, you know, kind of gave my opinions on the demo, which was obviously a very early build, so you may have seen that. But I'm pleased to say that there's definitely been some improvements for the full game. And yeah, I'm going to give this a really in-depth review and see whether you should buy it for yourselves or not. So let's go.
So the press pack seems to be similar to the collector's edition of the game from what I've seen. The box is really nice quality, displaying the Neofid logo, and has a magnetic side here. Inside is of course the game. The sleeve is actually reversible, so you can have this Japanese style artwork, or this more traditional PAL style, which I prefer personally. Inside the case is a sticker sheet and manual. The manual is nicely printed and features a rundown of the opening story with the same screenshots as featured in the game's intro. It details some of the game's mechanics, enemies and so on. And the cart itself. The cart is region free, so it'll play on your Mega Drive or Genesis regardless of the region. If you buy the ROM only version, they do warn that due to its large size it will only play on certain models of EverDrive, so check that before buying. In this bit of foam padding is a USB stick shaped like a sheathed sword. Looks really cool. On the stick is some press info, artwork including character art and GIFs, trailer videos, the full soundtrack and a Steam code. I'll be giving away the Steam code later in the video. The included documentation did invite me to give my honest review of the game, which of course I would anyway, but I thought it was nice nonetheless. It also asks me to give you a heads up that this pack is currently exclusively for press, so if you buy yourself a copy it'll be the game only without the extra gubbins. Also included is this rather nice cloth map of the Kingdom of Asteborg. Not something you see included with games often these days. And in here we have some more stickers, these gorgeous character cards, and these postcards depicting the stills from the intro. So that's the presentation out of the way, and I must say I'm impressed. But on to the game. FYI, I'm as usual recording this on a Model 1 Mega Drive via an OSSC. The game starts with a rather nice intro setting the story. I won't go into too much detail as I want you to experience it for yourself, but the long and short of it is you're a brave warrior called Gareth on a quest to defeat an evil demon called Zadimus and thus avenge his mother's death and free his people. A quick look at the settings. There are 3 buttons: attack, jump and special. Special is how you use the various powers you'll obtain throughout the game, but we'll get to that. You can have up to 4 saves on the go at one time, and you can delete unwanted saves here. You can also check out the sound effects in the credits here. Starting a new game, there are 3 difficulty settings: easy, normal and hardcore. As far as I can tell, the difference is the number of lives you have and the cost of items. On normal you have 3 lives, and on easy you have 9. The cost of items in the shop was also cheaper on easy. I'd say for your first playthrough go for easy because the game's difficulty doesn't seem to differ. And Demons of Asteborg requires a fair bit of trial and error, learning what strategy to use and how to use the various powers you acquire, especially when working out the best way to attack bosses. For that reason it's useful having 9 lives on your first run. It will still be a challenge, but you'll get a few extra goes per level. Demons of Asteborg is an action platformer with Metroidvania elements. For those of you that watched my video on the demo of this game back in June last year, I just want to say that they have fixed a few of the issues addressed there. The frame rate seems to have been improved upon, and most importantly, the audio stuttering is gone. You may remember that the music would stutter when dialogue boxes appeared on screen, and I'm very pleased to see that that issue is completely absent from the final game. The controls are A for attack, which performs a sword combo, and B for jump. Pressing down on the D-pad crouches, and pressing down and jump together performs a roll maneuver. This is really useful as you're invincible during the roll, so you can use this to not only dodge enemy attacks but to avoid taking damage. It also helps you get through tight passages. You can wall jump by pressing jump and towards the wall on the D-pad. The Metroidvania gameplay aspects come into play via the powers you obtain along the way. As mentioned, these are used by pressing your special button C. For example, on the first level you get this Projectile Attack. This can be used to attack enemies, but where it's really useful is getting past obstacles. This bridge in the first area is an impassable hurdle at first, but once you obtain the projectile you can shoot the rope to lower the bridge. This is a basic example of how the powers in the game help you progress, but they get more complicated and ingenious as you go on. Every level has a unique power. I assumed that I would be building up an arsenal of powers as the game progressed, but no, when I started level 2 I had lost my projectile attack. In this level you gain the ability to deflect enemy attacks. Later levels see you get some really clever powers like a flamethrower, the ability to walk on air, soul capture and stop time. The flamethrower is quite simple, use it to attack enemies or burn your way through vegetation. It gets trickier though when you have to use it to set torches alight to open doors, sometimes by setting enemy arrows on fire. And the boss fight makes use of this power really well. By far my favourite powers are soul capture and stop time. Soul capture lets you possess enemies. This lets you possess the body of a small creature to fit through gaps, or a burrowing creature which digs through the ground, or a flying creature to reach higher areas. Stop time does exactly what it says on the tin, stops time, freezing everything on screen for a short time. This lets you freeze enemies in place and freeze platforms in place. For example, freezing the rocks thrown by these guys lets you use them as a makeshift platform. I was really impressed that they managed to implement so many different powers, and having a unique power each level really makes the game keep its pace and feel fresh. The stop time power in particular is really impressive to see in a Mega Drive game. The real genius is that the levels are designed in such a way to gradually teach you how to use the power, building up to the eventual boss fight. It starts you off slowly, learning how the power works and its various uses, then ramps it up by giving you some tricky puzzles or platforming sections. Then use what you've learnt to defeat the boss using the power and the skills you've learnt during the level. Very clever indeed. I'm not going to spoil the story for you, but I will explain how the plot is progressed. Each level has a memory fragment which you'll need to locate and then return to Uther, your undead pal. Once Uther has the fragment, he'll regain a memory which will help the story along. Another story element is the occasional flashbacks. Gareth will reach a particular area that he's been to before, and that will trigger a memory. Cue a brief cutscene outlining the memory and then back to the action. A nice touch, I thought. Over the course of the game you'll play as 3 characters, Gareth and 2 others who I won't mention because spoilers. There's quite a dark plot twist later on too, where you find out everything was not quite what it seemed. The levels are really varied, from forests, swamps and caves to a castle. The areas are introduced on this overworld map at the start of each level. Each area has unique platforming features, for example vines to swing on, ropes to climb, moving platforms, traps to avoid and so on. Some have platforms that will fall after you jump on them, a staple of platforming games for years. It's worth noting that there's a level in a graveyard which has gravestones depicting the names of some of the Kickstarter backers. I did recognise at least one name, Quinn Fox, who I know from the Galaxy Sega Facebook group. There's also a level later on which is like a Space Harrier type shooter, but I'm not showing that because it will spoil a part of the plot you really should experience yourself. This level has different clouds, some that will disintegrate after being touched, and storm clouds that periodically zap you with lightning. Level 2 has a great example of the puzzles found throughout the game and how your powers aid in their solving. Deflect these little bomb guys into impenetrable blocks to destroy them, deflecting them at just the right moment and position. One level sees you doing some detective work. You have to question the inhabitants of a woodland village to deduce which of them is the imposter, which is a nice break from the action. There's a minecart level, which again is a really fun break from the norm, and a level reminiscent of Castlevania, complete with this cool looking 3D tower. I absolutely love the visual effect here, although you do have to tackle this bit twice with two different characters, which was a bit odd. There are some other really cool 3D effects in the game too, like the way the perspective shifts on this gate, and these holes in the wall which act like windows to the landscape outside. Overall, the graphics are stunning with some gorgeous background features and some nice use of parallax throughout. I can't fault the game's artwork, from the detailed level design to the well animated characters and the larger than life bosses. The boss fights are perfectly balanced in terms of difficulty. You start off thinking, wow, I'm never going to beat this guy, but after a couple of goes you've learned their attack patterns, and before you know it you're perfectly dodging their attacks and striking at their weak spot. One tricky aspect of the platforming is that you're not always sure whether a pit can be jumped down into or whether it will damage you. Usually the ones you can jump into have a sign with an arrow pointing downwards, so not a huge issue, and thankfully falling in a pit doesn't lose you a life. You just take a small amount of damage and return to the start of the screen you're on. If you do eventually lose all your lives and have to restart a level, you start again with your lives restored, but you do lose all your money. Money is obtained along the way from fallen enemies and hidden chests. Gaining as much money as possible is essential for buying upgrades in the shop, which you'll visit after each level. The shop sells extra lives and a special attack which damages all enemies on screen. This is executed by pressing down and special, and you can have several of these at one time. They're also found in chests during levels, but I think I only saw one myself. You can also buy an upgrade to your health and a wand which makes your special meter regenerate faster. The health and special or magic meters are at the top of the screen here. Your magic slowly fills up when you're not using it, and this just speeds the process up. The health upgrade essentially doubles your health, so is one to go for as soon as possible, and the special regeneration upgrade will be vital for the later levels. Even with the upgrade, I was in situations where I was almost out of magic, so I very much doubt you can complete the game without that upgrade. There's a magnifying glass that allows you to see the health of your enemies. This is something that I brought up in my demo playthrough. It really frustrated me that I couldn't see the boss's health, so I didn't know which attacks were effective. When I played the first level and I got to the boss, I was thinking that they hadn't rectified that, but no, it's just a purchasable upgrade here. So you won't see the first boss's health, but you'll see the rest. I'd advise buying this item first above all others, as seeing what's actually damaging a boss and what isn't effective will be essential to defeating the subsequent bosses. The last two upgrades are these books, one of which gives you an extra aerial attack which can be performed by pressing down and attack. I didn't really use this during my playthrough to be honest, so maybe leave that one till last. The other gives you an extra attack during your combo, so when mashing A you'll get one extra hit in on enemies. Enemies are quite varied too. You'll encounter all sorts of demons and creatures on land, in the air and in water. Some have projectile attacks and some just charge at you, but you can usually suss out their individual attack patterns and react accordingly, often by using your current power. Sometimes when entering a screen you'll be greeted with a message stating "Fight, kill all enemies on screen to progress." This prevents you from progressing until all enemies in that area have been defeated, in contrast to the rest of the game where enemies can often be bypassed by simply running away from them. Besides collecting money, you'll occasionally find vials which top up your health or magic, and also these power-ups. When you collect a power-up you're treated to some special case music, much like when collecting the invincibility power-up in Sonic, and that music is awesome. In fact, the whole soundtrack is superb and usually serves to set the tone of a level well. The sound effects are well done too. I found Demons of Asteborg quite challenging, but fair enough that it kept me going back for another go. In fact, I honestly couldn't put the controller down. It took me around 6 hours to complete the first time, and the fact that you have a different power each level added so much variety that I'd happily do it all again. So there's definitely some replayability there. Plus you have the difficulty modes to add some extra challenge. This has it all: great graphics and sound, challenging but rewarding gameplay, and a variety of powers that make it one of the most versatile and unique Mega Drive games I've played. We've been spoilt for good Mega Drive games recently, and Demons of Asteborg is up there as one of the greatest games on the platform, and I don't say that lightly. This really is that good. If you own a Mega Drive, you owe it to yourself to buy this game. It's also available on Steam and on the Nintendo Switch if you want to play it on those. Thank you so much again to Neofid for sending over this press pack, it's much appreciated, and congratulations to them on producing such a wonderful game for the Mega Drive. If you do want to pre-order a copy for yourself, I'll leave a link to their site in the description, and to be in with a chance to win the Steam code for the game, be sure to include the phrase "My uncle's called Gareth" in your comment below, and I'll draw it in a couple of weeks and contact the winner. I'll upload a full playthrough of this at some point soon, so if you want to see the whole game, spoilers and all, you can check that out. But until then, thanks for watching.